Given the season that the Patriots have had, the way that Tom Brady started off, all the injuries this team has had, the stitches, all of it on his hand, would winning the Super Bowl be his most impressive accomplishment at this point?
I don't think so. I mean, it's nice at 40, but Tom Brady is already a made man with 5 Super Bowls. It is hard to top off on the field and off the field what Tom Brady did last year. Tom Brady could have walked off last year into the sunset and realized, wow, this is like a Hollywood ending to a script. Because not that we forgot how the season began. Tom Brady was suspended last season to start the season. And now we know through personally, his family, his mother, was going through some hard times, wasn't able to watch him play, was able to be at the Super Bowl, down 28-3 in the Super Bowl to be able to get his 5th Super Bowl. So those things right there, it's hard to go beyond that. Now, it is nice to see how he's adding to history at 40, getting his team to a 13-3 season, the #1 seed, and now playing in his 8th Super Bowl. That's all just icing on the cake for me. But last year, it's hard to top what he went through from an emotional standpoint, from a physical standpoint, and being removed from the team by the NFL. I know it's important to Tom because I've been watching the Tom versus Time. He pointed out in there, he still has the letter saved from Roger Goodell from his suspension. So this would be monumental, but what he's already done and what he overcame in the last 12 months, I think supersedes this moment.
I would have thought you could never top last year. I also thought you could never top 2007, even though they didn't win the thing. I was like, Tom Brady's the quarterback of the greatest football team I've ever seen. And then last year happens. I'm like, man, this guy's 39 years old. All the things CC mentioned, the unbelievable comeback where he played a near flawless 4th quarter and then overtime. But I'm big on longevity. I'm big on people breaking the mold as far as it really stopping me in my tracks, impressing me. And if they finish this off, I think it would be the most impressive thing he's done. And here's why. Like, if they win this year, he will have started his career with 3 Super Bowl wins in 4 years. And then, not necessarily ended his career, but he could end his career if he wanted to walk away, with 3 Super Bowl wins in 4 years. He would have won back-to-back Super Bowls in years 3 and 4 as a starter, and then back-to-back Super Bowls in years 16 and 17 as a starter. I came into this year believing both of these things. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, and he's probably not going to be great this season. Like, I think people took the second to mean I didn't believe the first. I thought he was the greatest quarterback I'd ever seen, and I was selling Tom Brady's stock start this year because forget winning the Super Bowl at 40. No quarterback had ever been above 500 at 40. If he finishes this year, he will be with a win. He will be the MVP of the league, which I believe he already is, have another Super Bowl championship, have 50% more Super Bowls wins than Joe Montana, double the Super Bowl appearances of Joe Montana, and will have done it with no Edelman, last-ranked defense for the majority of the season, the one dynamic weapon on offense, and, oh, yeah, by the way, slices his hand open 72 hours before the AFC Championship
And don't
game.
forget the emotional wrinkle. For the first time in the last couple of years, we actually saw a fracture in the infrastructure in New England, and maybe it's been there, maybe it hasn't, but it got leaked for the first time this year, and we started talking about, well, who's going to stay and who's not going to stay. So I think for all those reasons, you have to ask yourself, where do you rank this Patriots team that he's taken to the Super Bowl compared to other teams that he has brought to the Super Bowl? Is this maybe the worst team that has
like, as far as you by that you mean as far
talent.
as like talent of the people on his team outside of Brady?
Yeah.
Well, I think that Brady has something too, lot like LeBron, as far as the Eastern Conference. Because if you look at the matchups, Marcus Mariota in the divisional round, Blake Bortles in the championship game. So his ability to get to the Super Bowl, it worked out with this team. This is not the most talented team. Like, this team, they'd have a hard time being 8-8 if Tom Brady wasn't on the team. Like, they're well coached and everything, but you can't coach what he does. And You're not going to be able to replace him with the guy that's going to make Danny Amendola a starter, that's going to make Hogan a big-time player. These guys aren't. They're just players that Tom Brady is making into better than what they are. So you have to give Tom credit for that. Up and down the roster, though, with injuries, like when they started the season, they thought this was a great football team, going to be a great season. But with the injuries, I mean, that's not the most talented team. I would say probably the least talented of all the Brady teams. I'm talking about top to bottom. Now, you have to realize the first 2 Super Bowls, the team won those. Tom was along for the ride.
And those were very talented defenses.
Yes.
Those 2 Super Bowls didn't have great. This team probably has better offensive talent than certainly the 0-1 Pats. But those teams had outstanding defensive players.
Right. I think the one thing that's significant, which led to Tom's suspension, the deflation of the football, because people talk about how will this affect his career. Well, they changed the ruling on the footballs. They got a new way that they measure them and who's able, the sequence for which the footballs are taken to the field. Tom Brady, since they changed that, has been just as successful or more successful. So for me, all those things that he went through, they changed the rules. He got suspended after all these appeals and winning the Super Bowl. And the thing that's really hard to put a value on his mother and her being sick last season and him being able to win the Super Bowl with, that's the first game that she attended last season. Accepting that trophy from Roger Goodell, it's hard to beat that type of accomplishment.
And the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history to boot. It would have been amazing no matter how they won the game, but the way they won it. The reason I probably am leaning towards this year is something CeCe touched on. I am a guy that places almost an outsized importance on longevity for all-time greats. Because I think we do an odd thing in sports commentary, which is guys that don't play as long, we just assume they would have continued to be great.
No.
One of the reasons that I'm seemingly a man on an island when it comes to Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders. I'm an Emmitt guy. And people are like, oh, well, Barry walked away early. I don't know what Barry would have looked like if he would have kept playing.
Right. It's the same thing with Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson, another example. People are like, oh, Calvin Johnson could have had all the maybe. So I'm an Emmitt over Barry guy. I'm a Kobe over Shaq guy because of the longevity. It's one of the reasons I'm a LeBron over Jordan guy. So for Brady to be what he did at age 39 was unprecedented. For him to somehow duplicate that or be on the cusp of duplicating that,
right.
It is so remarkable to me, and he keeps setting standards that I think are going to be unapproachable. Like, as I mentioned, that Montana went to 4 Super Bowls. He's now been to 8. Are we ever going to see another quarterback go to 5 Super Bowls when Brady's been to 8?
No.
He could win 6. CeCe said the other day, you think he's going to win 7.
Yes, I think he'll win 2. I think. Yes.
We ever going to see?
I'm not coming up with my prediction yet, but I think he's going to have 2 more trophies.
Is another quarterback ever going to win 5?
No.
Right? Like, he is lapping the second greatest in the field. And, well, will continue to, assuming if they are able to win on Sunday.
One thing that you have to realize, too, that there's been quarterbacks very, very close to Tom in age, that being Brett Favre. Brett Favre doesn't throw the interception. That's one pass in New Orleans with the NFC Championship. They go on to the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning had a serious neck injury that required multiple surgery, but he was approaching that corner, and then he fell off a cliff. Drew Brees is right behind him at 39. So we have seen a version of this, but Tom Brady, what he's doing is very, very special.
And one of the questions that we will continue to be asked and talk about this week is going to be whether the outcome of the Super Bowl determines whether Tom Brady comes back again next year, which we will see. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.